Sweeping changes have been proposed to the national curriculum, which would see Australian students taught less humanities and more Indigenous studies. The new curriculum, a product of government audit review, also reduces overall content by 20% in an effort to improve the performance of Australian students in international testing. For more on this, I'm joined from Melbourne by education expert and senior research fellow at the Australian Catholic University, Dr. Kevin Donnelly. Kevin, will this new national curriculum help return Australian students to the top of the international league tables, or at least close to it? We have been dropping in those international league tables in recent years.
Well, unfortunately, no, Rita, and I was bemused when I saw the media release from ACARA, the body responsible for the curriculum, that talked about being world leading and benchmarking against better performing countries. It's ridiculous. It's all rhetoric. We're in fact not doing anything in this new curriculum, the revised curriculum, to address the issue of how to get students to achieve stronger results in terms of the international testing.
Well, for Year 7 students, an exploration of Roman and Greek history is going to be dumped, and instead we're going to have a deep time history of Indigenous Australia. And there's a few other moves in that fashion as well. Is that the right move, Kevin?
It's not, and when I reviewed or co-chaired the review in 2014, we acknowledged that Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander history, culture was important, but this is kind of cancel culture on steroids when it comes to Western culture and Christianity that's almost been, well, in fact, has been ignored. I'll give you a couple of examples. In English, in Year 7 to 10, there are 45 references to Aboriginal oral language, texts, ways of speaking. Nothing about Western literature, you know, the literary canon, which does evolve, but it's the foundation. Even worse in mathematics, where there are 74 references to Indigenous mathematics, including, and I'll quote, algebraic thinking and counting systems. Now, the last time I was at school many years ago, mathematics was actually more about what we'd learned from the Greeks and from the Europeans and from the English and from the Indians, for example, in terms of numerical, how to work figures. But this idea that you can somehow now teach mathematics and science with an Indigenous perspective will only make us go backwards internationally.
Well, yeah, you mentioned science, and the curriculum is going to introduce what it calls intercultural inquiry practices into the teaching of science. Again, that's an area where we are trailing a lot of countries where they don't spend anywhere near what we spend on education. And is that going to further disadvantage our students when you look at those rankings?
It will, and I often give the example of when I'm hopping on a plane or, you know, going across a bridge. You like to think that the physics, the mathematics, the scientific input that's gone into that, keeping planes in the air, bridges upright, it really doesn't have anything to do with culture. It's, in fact, whether it's Eskimo, New Guinea Highlanders, Aborigines, it's the fact that it's Western science, which has been proven empirically based on what we used to call logic and rationality.
Well, students, it's not just the high school students and the science and maths classes, they're also the very basic stuff. Students are now not going to be taught how to tell the time, to read a clock, until year 2, used to happen in Year 1. And they're delaying the reciting of times tables until Year 4. Now, to me, that's a bit too late. By Year 4, you should know your timetables and not just starting them. Is that, what's the logic behind that, Kevin?
Well, whatever the logic is, it's wrong. I've benchmarked our curriculum in Australia internationally over the last 20 years 4 times. And when I look at stronger performing countries, whether it's Finland or the Asian countries, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, they get rid of all the sort of faddish rubbish. They focus on what's essential, especially in the early years. So you need to look at things like times tables, memorisation, so it becomes automatic. You need to do that early. You shouldn't wait too long, otherwise it's too late. And the other point here is you have a very good computer sitting on your sitting on your head. You don't need all of this technology. You need to get young kids in particular, year 1, year 2, to learn all of this so that it's automatic. Then they can be creative, they can be more adventurous. But unless you have that basic knowledge, you really are in danger of even falling further behind.
You need that foundation. You need that foundation, and rote learning is part of that. Dr. Kevin Donnelly, thank you so much for your time this evening.
My pleasure, Rita.